It's a very special Friday episode of Eater's Digest. With me, as always, is Willow North. Willow, it feels a lot like elementary school during the Christmas season where the teacher would just wheel in the big TV and you knew you were not going to get anything done except for a little fun. How do you feel about this last episode of the year?
I'm excited to have a little fun. We're going to shake things up a little bit this week. We have a little Q&A segment provided to us by our lovely Discord members. And I think it'll be fun to shake things up a little bit.
All right, hit me with a couple questions, please.
First up, we have, how has working in food media changed your relationship to food and cooking, if at all?
I should be asking you this question. I'm going to Uno reverse card it on you. How do you feel now that you are like an internet celebrity? I feel like you've become an emote. I think somebody made like an emote out of you in the Discord. People have a sense of who you are with like the cheese addict that you are. I feel like you're under a microscope more than you have been before. How does that feel?
It's interesting. It actually feels pretty good. Everyone's been very nice, which coming into an online space, I would generally expect the opposite. But the overwhelming majority of people have been super nice. I think one of the strangest things to come out of it is that I'm now very hyper aware of food recalls. It's one of those things that comes up every single week. And while it might not always be widespread enough that we touch on it on these news segments, there is so much of it going on, and I feel too aware of it, and I wish I wasn't.
The way that things have changed for me as part of this show is now when my sisters and mom will like DM me Instagram stories about like the new Baskin Robbins flavor or some food recall, I'll be like, okay, you're a fake fan, and now I understand that. But in terms of the main channel, like the regular cooking videos, I just have to keep an ear to the ground for titles, like video titles, more than I had to before. Like I've been making a lot of gnocchi this month, and I think like, well, what's the title for something like that if I wanted to share my gnocchi process? Is it gnocchi is a lot easier if you have a potato ricer, which is kind of a mouthful and doesn't make a whole lot of sense to an outsider? Or is it cumulative exam, gnocchi, because it combines a lot of things that have been talked about on the channel before? But in terms of the actual cooking, everything's the same. It's just while I'm cooking, I'm thinking, what's the title for this video going to be?
Yeah, it gets into every step of that. I think about this show when I'm cooking a lot, and I'm not even making cooking content here. I'm just talking about food.
Yet. That could be on the horizon.
Maybe. Speaking of food, though, our next question, do you have any food or flavor combinations that you enjoy that other people might find strange or gross?
I will never talk about anything that other people find strange, gross, controversial, yucky, disagreeable. Next, that's the only thing that I learned from this show is keep it to yourself. Next.
All right. Do you have any stereotypically like bad or low quality shortcut ingredients that you use that some folks might not expect or even like turn their nose up at?
About 3 weeks ago, I would have had to say no, not anything at the top of my head. But now my baby is addicted to quiche. So I buy every week a 2-pack of Pillsbury pre-made or bake-it-yourself pie crusts so that I can take the most difficult step of quiche making out of the process.
That baby is getting quiche on a regular basis. That is fancy. Oh my God.
He loves quiche.
I don't think I have a lot of examples for this question, but one of the big ones for me, not to bring up cheese again, is the cellulose like shaker Parmesan cheese. I grew up eating that. I really like it. I don't think it's great, but most of the time I have both that and like real deal Parm Reg in the fridge at the same time because there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah, fair enough. I have like 3 to 5 little packets of the fake Parm in my spice cabinet just from when pizza places give it to you. And it comes in handy sometimes, especially if you have guests where they're just like, do you have any of the, you know what kind?
Food influencer cookbooks. Do you think that they are a cash grab or kind of like a relatable approach to cooking?
I don't know. I guess they could be both. I've definitely had people in my email inbox say something like, hey, you're an influencer. Would you like to do a cookbook? We can do everything for you. And then I start to ask questions like, what is this? Like, what is this industry? How does it work? But, I'm not a recipe developer. I don't think that necessarily people who make YouTube videos are recipe developers. And the making of a cookbook requires a lot of skills like photography and page layout. So it's kind of a different product altogether. I think people like to see it as just a collection of recipes, but if you look at like a Brian Lagerstrom channel, his channel is a collection of recipes. To turn that into a cookbook is a completely different work of art and commerce. So I guess in some way, both. I don't think I own any. I like to buy restaurant cookbooks from restaurants that I like, even though it's almost impossible to make any of those recipes on like a normal weekday. Do you feel strongly about influencer cookbooks? Is that why you asked this one?
I don't think that I feel particularly strongly about it. I do have a couple that I guess you would consider influencer cookbooks. I have Dan Pelosi's cookbook. I can't remember what it's called right now. And I have a couple digital cookbooks from some of the former BA folks. And I think that they're pretty good. A lot of the recipes are very approachable, but still sort of elevated. I've even seen a couple like very traditional Instagram influencers put out cookbooks recently that I have not gotten to look through, but look very good to me. Justine Doiron comes to mind. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. I apologize if I'm not. And Erin Alderson, they both have come out with cookbooks recently that look very good to me. But they are not like traditional like chefy influencers.
I like the way that a lot of them look. It's sort of like a coffee table for your kitchen where you can put it on display and say, hey, like a restaurant, the branding here says this is what kind of food you can expect to come out of this kitchen.
So you're okay with that in the cookbook, but not in the condiment, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to open your fridge and be like, oh, you're a Sando sauce type of mayonnaise girl.
All right. Our final question we have here is, what is the worst meal you've ever eaten or made?
There's like 5 really solid ones from my college cooking era. I think probably the most memorable one is I had some friends from El Paso come over to my parents' house because I was like, guys, I've been cooking this thing that I saw on Alton Brown's YouTube channel where you lay steaks directly on the coals. And I was getting ready to do that, but I was at my parents' house and I realized they don't have like whole peppercorns to crack. So I just used the dust and I thought, well, how bad could it be? And it just like got obliterated on the hot coals and turned into like ashy, dusty, like it completely ruined the food in a way that made me say, oh, some ingredients when downgraded in quality aren't just worse in quality. They like can be a net negative to the dish. So that was a very formative steak for me. None of us could eat it. What about yourself?
That's a very good learning experience, though. At least you learned something from that. The most memorable one that I have made at least, was one of the first times that I tried to make falafel. And unfortunately, I had the bright idea of like, I'm going to make this for the first or second time ever for a large group of people, which is never a good idea. Don't make something very new to you for a large group of people. And they all fell apart. It was terrible. I tried to salvage the meal by pressing it into a sheet pan and baking it like a falafel cake. And it was terrible. 0 out of 10, do not recommend.
I've been trying something like that where you smash it into the pita and then shallow fry it. So maybe that could give you some...
That sounds like a much better way of rescuing that meal than I tried to.
I see here on our notes that we've got some breaking news, some real earth-shattering food industry news for story number 1. So please bring it on.
A very beloved food news podcast is getting its own YouTube channel. Wildly popular food news show Eater's Digest will be moving to a new YouTube channel in the new year. Your favorite hosts will be taking the next 2 weeks off for the holidays, but keep your eyes peeled for the new Eater's Digest YouTube channel to stay up to date on all the latest weird and wild food news in 2025.
That's us. That's us. She said the title of the show. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think this was actually a really interesting learning experience. Eater's Digest has changed forms. It was like a newsletter, then a live stream, then a newsletter again, and now this show. And, you know, it's you got to wrestle with the fact that we are now podcasters. I tried to avoid it, but I think this is like solidly, squarely a podcast now. I don't know how that makes you feel.
I don't know that I have any particular feelings about it, but I do think that your I do not wish to podcast video might not be aging very well at this point.
This second channel, Extranet Shaquille, was created just to do some like experimental stuff like this. But the truth is I miss just being able to talk about random stuff on this channel. And now this like weekly show has kind of taken over. It's really grown its own wings. It's ready to move out of the nest, and putting it on its own channel is part of that. I've also been talking to people in the podcast industry, and there's just so many things that I've been avoiding that make it clear that this could be a far more successful show if I did things like put it on an audio only feed with its own channel art and like a branded channel name, things like that. I know people have been clamoring for like an audio only feed that they could listen to on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or things like that. And so that's part of the process that we'll be spending the rest of the year figuring out.
Yeah, it is. It's been a lot of fun doing this, and I'm ready to see our little baby spread its wings and fly.
Yeah, I'm excited to start making some money off this thing because it costs about $400 per episode to make. And when I brought you onto the show, I was like, hey, if this thing grows, I'll give you like a portion of the channel proceeds. And the channel proceeds have been non existent so far. So it's still definitely just like your hourly rate at freelance. And so not exactly the golden goose that I may have alluded to, but I'm excited to see where it heads next year.
Well, I'm having fun and I'm happy to be here.
I will paste the link to the new show/channel in the comments so you won't have to type it out or anything like that. And with that, we'll see you in 2025 in the new channel. Please, what is the next story?
All right, next up, McDonald's cult favorite snack wrap is officially returning. After months of hinting and nearly a decade of devoted fans begging, McDonald's has announced the long-awaited return of the snack wrap. These wraps amassed a cult following from 2006 to 2016 when they were eventually discontinued, with McDonald's citing complex construction and increased wait times as the reason. The official date has not been announced for competitive reasons, but fans are speculating that we'll see the wrap gracing menus sooner rather than later.
What a perfect bow at the end of this show, because I feel like one of the earliest episodes with you on it, if not the first episode with you on it, was about people wanting the snack wrap. And now it's like, it's finally back. They're doing this really smart, like Supreme style marketing where it's like, it'll be here in XX25 or something. They're doing some very like exclusive hype beast style marketing around it. And people are excited. And it seems like this is going to be a smash hit from McDonald's.
I also think that the timing for this could not be better, coming off of the E. coli scare that McDonald's was dealing with for a while. The announcement for the snack wrap came only 2 days after the CDC cleared them as being good to go, no new cases since I think late October. And I think that this is a smart decision on their part, a great way to kind of win back the favor of McDonald's fans. Restaurants are drawing in customers with free bubbles. An increasing number of restaurants and cafes are now offering free on-tap sparkling water to customers, responding to the growing popularity of seltzer in the last several years. Offering what feels like a luxury touch can be a great way for businesses to improve customer experience in a small but memorable way, allowing them to stand out from similar establishments.
From a B2B standpoint, I could totally understand why somebody would sell restaurants a on-tap seltzer water machine, because it could be like, hey, you're tired of opening cans and bottles and making waste and having to pay extra for packaging. And from a B2C standpoint, it's just so nice when it's like, oh, sparkling or still, and also sparkling is free just as well. The part that I worry about, not knowing which restaurants this applies to, is this going to be the type of thing where you have to go up and get your own? Because it always felt a little weird to me when you go to like a restaurant outside in Austin and there's flies everywhere and you have to walk up to like a little water spigot and there's also like dog bowls there and cups just stacked up. It never looked very inviting. And as somebody who goes to restaurants mostly for the hospitality, it's like you go to somebody's house and the number one question you get asked is like, oh, do you need water or something to drink? And it's like, that should be the first lowest bar for restaurants where it's like, hey, can I get you a glass of water? But when it says on tap, I wonder if the value will be properly conveyed to the customer unless they're the ones pulling the tap.
The first thing that I thought of with this story was that, obviously there is a sense of luxury in the sense of like going out to a fine dining restaurant and ordering sparkling water, and it's a big $11 glass bottle of Mountain Spring sparkling water. But if you were offering carbonated water for free, my first instinct would be that you can just get soda water from the soda gun at the bar. And I feel like if you order it that way, it's been free the whole time.
I'm trying to think of the last time I ordered sparkling water. I know that I've been charged for it before, and I guess it just comes down to, would it be called on tap if it's just from the soda gun, or does it have to be from some kind of long-handled tap to be called on tap? Is that a legally regulated term?
I would assume it's kind of just used colloquially as being like, we have this available and it's not in a can or bottle. I have not seen any images of this being like on tap like a beer would be. I would imagine it's probably like an industrial soda stream of sorts would be my first guess.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting branding/marketing exercise, because when I think free sparkling water, I associate it with like a big 42-ounce red plastic cup that I'm going to get from like a Chili's or a bar and grill. And so when I think about like the luxury side of things. How are they going to communicate that? Because usually the luxury of sparkling water is communicated via a big bottle that costs $11 because it's got Saratoga Springs on it or something like that. I don't know. I think it'll take a while to reach Arizona, and by that time, it won't be relevant anymore. But I'm going to keep my eye out. Out here in the Southwest, you get free chips and salsa instead, and I'll take that any day.
I'm right there with you. Give me the chips and salsa. Give me the bread and butter. I'll take tap water.
Well, I'm going to miss hearing about awful Frankenstein brand collaborations for the rest of the year. So for one last time in 2024, what can we expect?
All right, in the spirit of the holidays, I have an interesting list for you here, not of edible food products, but of giftable food brand collaborations. We have Miller Lite Bar Fume, Crumble and Dove Body Care collab, and the Chili's Triple Dipper bedding set.
The Miller Lite Parfum, it's just like, I'm so tired of the manly products like the Dr. Squatch and all of this, where it's just like the only way to smell good and look good is if you're like, black coal infused soap with badass pine tar something or other. I'm over it. I'm equally over the crumble craze. I don't know how they managed to collaborate with Dove, but this is insane. Like, Dove has always, in my mind, positioned itself as like the generally good for culture and society brand. Like, they're like, hey, every body is beautiful, stuff like this. And then Crumble comes in with just like, boom, hey, you ever wanted a chocolate chip cookie? Like, I don't understand the success of Crumble. I don't know how everybody understands that it's just like extremely science-defyingly calorically dense, underbaked, over-flavored, just nasty cookies. I don't know how they succeeded so much. Do you have Crumble where you are? You've made it sound like you're pretty remote.
I do not have Crumble here. If there is one in Maine, I would be willing to bet it's in Portland, so probably like an hour away from me. I've never even seen one in person. I've never seen a Crumble cookie outside of the internet. It doesn't look very good to me. Transferred over to like a body care product, I think it's a weird collab, but I'm sure it's not terrible. I mean, vanilla scented deodorant has been around forever. It just feels very unnecessary to me, though.
I'm sure it will smell nice. It's just the branding aspect of such an abrasive brand like Crumble and such a calm, sure of itself brand like Dove doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. What does make absolute and total sense to me is the Chili's Triple Dipper bedding. I see that they have Chipotle Honey Crisper socks. They look disgusting. They look vile. And that's what it's all about. You become the hawk to a girl. You build up a fan base. You do hawk coin and you do a rug pull for like millions and millions of dollars. Like, this is the way that the world works now. When you have something viral, when you have a hit, you milk it for all it's worth before it's not relevant anymore. Chili's Triple Dipper dinner has been having a hell of a year. That's revitalized the whole brand. And why not just cap it off with some hideous bedding?
The thing that I found the most interesting about the bedding is that it only comes in queen size. And my first instinct is that this would be something a child would want, not for a queen size bed. No judgment out there if you are thrilled to be getting the Triple Dipper bedding under your Christmas tree this year. It's to me, this is the strangest one, honestly.
I expect most Triple Dipper lovers to be in their early 20s, like old enough to be able to do whatever they want and go to Chili's whenever they want, but young enough to appreciate a good deal in the casual dining space.
Young enough to appreciate being swaddled in layers of fake mozzarella sticks while you sleep at night.
Well, I hope you have a great holiday season. That goes for you, Willow, and you, dear viewer. We will see you all in the new year on the new channel. Until next time, goodbye. We'll miss you.
Happy holidays, everyone.